Hello and welcome to the podcast. I've got a brilliant guest with me today. So brilliant, in fact, I've got my pen and paper out already, ready to take down a million notes off the back of today's podcast. It's the one and only Ben Marley, who's just gone self-employed as the owner of GeoCale. Now, Ben is an expert on ranking at the top of Google. So if you want to be at the top of Google, which spoiler alert, I think everyone does, take loads of notes on today. There's going to be absolute gold from start to finish. Ben, a huge thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks, Chris. What a build-up that is. It's GeoCal
Oh,
is the
really? I've
pronunciation.
done such a
That's
good
all right.
job that I've
Yeah, yeah.
mispronounced the company.
That's cool. I've heard it. I was presenting at the Loop conference the other week, and then I was literally stood at the back of the room waiting to come on, and then Ollie Gleave went, "Oh, we've got right, really excited now. We've got Ben Marley from Geo. I was like, fine, like just close enough. Crack
I'm not
on,
the first. That's a relief. But
crack
yeah,
on. Yeah,
first job of podcast guests. Make sure you or podcast host. Make sure you get the guest name right and their company right. I'm really ticking the boxes. I'm an absolute pro.
cool,
Well,
mate.
from
No
start to
worries.
finish.
No
So
worries.
first of all, a huge congratulations on launching the business. I know we were just chatting
Thank you.
before we came on live today, and obviously you've gone from the employed world to the self-employed world. How's it gone so far?
It's a whirlwind of emotions, of sleepless nights, of the great, the not so great, and yeah, it's all good. It's all good. It's everything I thought it would be, and the ups and downs are magnified more than I thought they would be. But
Yeah.
it's all good.
Good, excellent.
It's all
So,
good.
give us the background how we got to today. So, what's the sort
Sure.
of background of yourself, sort of
Yeah.
job wise, role wise, and how
Sure.
we kind of arrived at today?
So I've been working in the property sector for the last 10 years, and I started out at Rightmove, and then I was only there for about a year, and then I moved into the online review space. So I spent just under 5 years working for a business called FIFO, which a lot of people have used, and in my time there, the kind of the review space when I started working it back in kind of 2015, reviews was almost like a bit of a dirty word in the estate agency world, and no one was really doing much about it. And I kind of took it upon myself to try and change that a little bit. 9 years ago, no one was collecting Google reviews at all. No one was really collecting reviews. Your options were kind of FIFO, Trustpilot, All Agents. We were kind of three, really. And then, so after kind of about 5 years of working for there, I joined the Esters, and I joined there the week before lockdown one. So, like many people who started their business around that time, it was a bit of a squeaky bum time in terms of what have I done at this moment in time, etc. But I'm a firm believer that if it's going to work, it's going to work, kind of thing. So yeah, so spent the last kind of 4.5 years working with the wonderful Simon and Sarah Brown at the Esters, and kind of helping them to kind of evolve what their offering was away from being just awards into a review system. And I would say for probably about the last kind of 2.5 years, I had, and kind of how I got to today was that I had been anecdotally telling people on a one-to-one basis all the things that they were missing in terms of their website or their Google profile, and the things that they could do to improve that. And what happens is, Chris, this is exactly how the conversation goes, right? You go, right, Mr. Customer, did you know you're missing this, this, and this on your Google profile? And they're going, oh, no, I didn't know that. Oh, yeah, by the way, if you match this data to your website, that's really going to help you with your local rankings. And then your notepad comes out, they jot it all down, and that's where it stays, right? So I would like speak to them again like a few weeks later or months later or whatever, and be like, oh, have you implemented those things? I told you. Oh, no, it's still on the to-do list. And no one ever actioned anything. And the reason that no one ever actioned anything, I ended up kind of come to my own conclusion. It was two reasons. One, it was time. The other was actual knowledge that I didn't really understand the stuff that I was telling them. They would kind of nod and agree with me and go, oh, okay, yeah, go and do it. But to actually go and action that and deliver that and make that a consistent part of their routine, it just never happened. So it was with a conversation that I had with Simon Gates, and I said to him, I think that there's something in this. I said, I've got so much knowledge that I can share with people about how they could improve their Google Maps ranking. I said, I think I could go and start a business on this. And he said, absolutely, you need to go and do it. 2 years later, I actually did it. So it took me 2 years from the kind of original concept of that to go and do that. And a lot of that was actually down to the fact that I wasn't sure whether I was doing the right thing, of leaving the comfort of being employed to obviously going and starting my own business. But in the end, it was there never is going to be a good time. And you just got to rip that band-aid off and crack on and do it.
Perfect. I love the sound of that. So let's talk through the common mistakes. Let's go glass half empty to start off with. So looking at most agents' Google profiles out there, what are the most
Mhm.
common mistakes that agents are making that is kind of shooting themselves in the foot somewhat?
Yeah. Okay. So this is not a criticism, by the way, of anything that we say of people. The thing to remember with this, I think, as a general kind of sweeping statement, okay, and the analogy that I use with this is that this is about consistency, and this is, if you imagine Google, what is Google, right? It is a search engine. Now, because it's an engine, it needs to run off fuel, but the fuel that it eats is relevant data, right? So it eats data. You just got to make it as relevant as you can so that Google can chew that relevant data and spit it out back to the searcher. Often common mistakes are that data can be conflicting between their website and their Google profile. So if you imagine every time somebody does a search for estate agent location or estate agent near me, or actually a lot of people just put in estate agent, right? Because Google is now intuitive enough that if you just put in restaurant stood in your home, it will identify that there are so many restaurants near you, and it will bring up those ones as well, right? So there's loads of different permutations of the different search terms that someone could find you. That map criteria, okay, is the top three that get into that map is about who matches up most of the relevant data that they're looking for. The more relevant data that it can match, the better chance you've got of being in that top three. If you're in that top three, that is the untapped gold mine that you never knew existed. Okay, so biggest mistakes that often, no, I wouldn't say the biggest bits that people miss. I wouldn't say mistakes, because mistakes would be on the basis that they knew it and they still didn't do it. If you don't know it, you don't know it, right? So matching all of the data from your website and your Google profile is paramount. Okay, so if you look at all the data that's on your Google profile, your opening hours, not many agents actually have their opening hours on their website. So if you don't have your opening hours on your website, and that needs to not just be chucked on the website, that needs to be actually implemented in what's called the schema markup. Okay, so you'll have something called local organizational schema. Chuck that in their build of your website. Okay, because what happens is that if someone's searching at 11:30 in the morning saying estate agent location, your Google profile says you're open, but your website doesn't. Google now will say, well, you're not open.
Okay, that's my first thing on my list already. The biros come out, opening hours on
Okay,
website.
right? So but that's just like a basic thing, first of all, right? Ensure that your address matches your Google profile on your website. So, for example, if you're based in 29 Acacia Avenue on your Google profile, and on your website you are Globe House, 29 Acacia Avenue, that data doesn't match. It's got to match verbatim. So you need to change one or the other, right? Another one is your reviews. Okay. Now, a lot of people have been misinformed over the years by people that don't really understand this, that the way you get yourself to the top of Google is by just going and collecting Google reviews. Now, that's not to say that these aren't important. Yes, reviews are massively important in terms of your search results on Google. However, I guarantee you, Chris, right, I've done this 1,000 times, and I've done it live with people. I've done it at conferences and so forth. And sometimes, literally, I just shout at someone, pick a location, someone shout their town. And you go, right, estate agent, their town. You look at the top three, and the top three are normally companies that have got pretty healthy reviews. So a lot of people will just assume, oh, these must be the three that have got the most reviews. If you hit more businesses, the little tab underneath, you'll then see everyone else who's in that town. You start scrolling down that list, I guarantee you'll find companies with more reviews than the top three. So it's kind of we've already proved that theory incorrect, right? But one of the things that people don't know is that you have to reply to your reviews within a certain time period. Okay, so in 2000 up until 2022, it used to be that you had 72 hours from when someone left the review to reply to that review. It's now 18 hours. So if you don't reply to your reviews on Google within 18 hours, Google will penalize you for it.
Got it. The borough is working hard here. We've got addresses,
Okay.
we've got reviews, we've got opening hours already, sort
Okay.
of thing.
Tip of the iceberg stuff, but this is just kind of the basics. Okay. This is stuff that people can just go and do off their own back and just start to employ kind of best practice strategies with this.
And how important is so when you search for a company, so lots of people name their business, Chris Webb Estate Agent, your personal estate agent in Slough, for example. How important is that naming of your business
Okay.
on Google when it comes to certain keywords like the area and estate agent and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So that is that it is important. Will it guarantee you to suddenly start leapfrogging people? No, because it's just one of the pieces of the puzzle that Google's looking for, right? So there are just under 150 ranking factors that Google takes into consideration. Okay, so just say, for example, you called yourself Chris Webb, estate agent in Buckingham, for example, right? If someone is searching estate agent in Buckingham, obviously the fact that that's in your title will help you. However, for anyone listening to this who doesn't have that in their company name and their Google profile, now, categorically, do not go and change your name. Don't go and change your name, because the moment that you change your name, so just say, for example, you were just called Chris Webb, estate agent, don't now go and change it to Chris Webb, estate agent, Buckingham, because the moment that you change your name, a lot of your ranking factors will now just drop off. Okay. Now, if you are someone who is sat there and go, well, I'm number 20 on the list out of 50 when I search for estate agent Buckingham, for example, that you might go, what have I got to lose? Well, you'll drop from 20 to 40 and do it. So it is important. Don't go and change it. For anyone who's maybe starting a new profile, that's the time that you need to employ that.
Okay. Cool. And you mentioned the map. So talk me through the importance of appearing on the map on Google.
Okay. So for many years, it's always been kind of a given that, when people start talking about the dark art of SEO, that the organic listings is kind of paramount, that you must be in that top 5 or 6 in the organic listings. So back in 2018, the way that the desktop results used to appear was that you had paid ads that appear at the top of the page, and then you had the organic listings, and then the map used to appear on the right-hand side of the page. Then they merged it all together. Okay, so the moment that they merged it all together, what happened was that the map is now organically the first thing that someone sees. So typically, paid ads get about 10% of all of the clicks on page 1 of Google. It used to be, before they merged the left and the right side together, that the top 6 organic results shared 66% of all of the organic clicks on Google, right? So that was what everyone was vying to be there, because if you were there, you knew that your website traffic and your inquiries was going to go through the roof. Then Google overnight then just changed that by merging this and pushing the map into the left-hand side of the screen and putting that above the organic listings. As a consumer, what you have to think is, if I'm a searcher, that's now the first thing that I see. And guess what? In my Google profile, it does have my reviews, and it has my company name, and it has a call to action button. So anyone who's searching on the mobile, it's the first thing you see. You don't even need to click on someone's website to be able to give them a call or engage with them. You can do that directly from a Google profile, right? So now that Google map can receive as much as 44% of all of the clicks, the inquiries, and the phone calls from page one search of Google. So we've jumped from back in 2018, when it was the top 6 shared 66% of the clicks. Now it's 3 that share 44%. So it's massive. If you're there, right, the good news is you can get there. And the good news is someone's always going to be there. The bad news is if you're not there, someone else is.
And what about if I was a self-employed estate agent and I was working from home, so therefore I didn't necessarily want to put my home address online and have a pin sort of outside Chris Webb's house and come look to my windows and whatever else it might
100%.
be. Is it still possible to appear on the map side of
Okay.
things, or is that something that can't happen?
So for anyone who is obviously the whole kind of self-employed models are kind of exploding at this moment in time, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't want my home address on my Google Business profile, so I got a virtual office. I have a virtual office address, and I pay £30 a month to have that virtual office address, and I actually chose one that is really close to the centre of Chichester, where I live. That actually plays a factor, your proximity to the city centre of your town. So for anyone who is a self-employed agent, or for anyone who's a business owner who is working remotely from home, who just on your Google profile, you can choose to have like a service area. Don't have the service area. It does you no favors at all in terms of that map that appears on your profile. If you've got no other choice, you've got no other choice. But ideally, I would advise anyone, for the sake of 30 quid, go and get a virtual office, but make sure that virtual office is near to the centre of your town as possible, not in a multi-service building on the outskirts of the town, because that's where Google is now going to say that your business is located. Get it closer to the centre of town.
Hypothetically, obviously I would never do this, but hypothetically, if you had a friend who lived in the town centre, for example, you had a friend who lived in the middle of Chichester, for example, and you text your friend saying, look, you can get a postcard by Google in a few days' time, can you send me the code or whatever it may be? Would that work, or would they have to then have the business listed as their address, and that would be a bit of a no-go?
No. Yeah. So under no circumstances do you toe the line with Google. You have to adhere to everything that Google says. Getting your account suspended on Google is absolute nightmare, and there's a very good chance that you won't get it back, right? So you need to do everything you can to make sure that you are not towing the line with Google. Google is the judge, the jury, the executioner, right? It is their rules and their rules only. Okay.
Is that where you record those hilarious videos where you have to take a selfie by a street sign and then walk into your office and show your branded gear and all that sort of stuff to kind of pass the test again?
Okay, so yeah, so when you're doing the verification with it, if you're using a virtual location that is already recognised by Google, then it's much easier to get it verified and approved, because they will have businesses that they will know that are already in there. Okay, if you are, for example, if someone actually wanted to have their office at their home address, to get your Google account verified, you would have to have a sign outside your house on the gate or something with your company name and your website address and everything else. And when you take that video to send off to Google, right, you have to include all of these different things. No one actually sits at the end of that line and watches it. It's their algorithm and their bots that are doing it. So there is no human involvement in this whatsoever. So make it as easy as possible for their algorithm, their bots, right, to go, cool, they're a legitimate registered business at this address.
Cool. So we've gone glass half empty so far. We've talked about the mistakes that agents are making, or things they don't know necessarily how to do. What are some quick wins out there? So if someone's listening to this thinking, okay, I'm ranking number 20 at the moment, like you mentioned, but I want to make it into the top 10 or the top, 30 or whatever it may be. What are some things they can take on board that they can quickly do to kind of give themselves a little bit of a boost in the arm on their Google side?
Sure. So I would say look at three components with this mainly. You can start creating posts on your Google profile. Okay, you can on those posts that are on there, just deliver as much content as you can. Don't make it the same thing. under no circumstances do you keep putting in a post about request a free valuation, right? Don't do that. Mix it up. A few lifestyle posts from social media, few properties that you've either sold or got to sell. Put call to action buttons in them so that people can call you directly from them. That's number one. Number two would then be with your reviews. Make sure that your reviews are at least 45 reviews and above 4.2 score. Okay. Anyone who falls short of that, Google won't even consider you as a positive place of business. Bear in mind, Google reviews have been around now Google reviews have been around for a long time, but Google My Business has been around for 10 years. So they've changed the name of it now to Google Business Profiles, right? But the concept of what that profile is, that has been around now for 10 years. If you can't collect 45 reviews in the last 10 years, something's gone horribly wrong, right? It doesn't matter how new you are, you can start collecting reviews. Make sure you get it above that minimum threshold. Number three is you need to go and start registering yourself with directories. Okay, so directories that are referred to as citation sites. So if you imagine that you've got places like Yell, Thomson Local, 192.com, Proven Expert, Brown Book, etc. These are directories that will allow you to be able to upload your business information for free on there. And they will have a link, a backlink back to your website on as well. But what you're doing is you're making sure that it's the reference for what's called the NAP, the name, address, and phone number. If you imagine that when Google does, when someone does a search for estate agent location, the first thing that Google is going to look at is where is your name, address, and phone number registered. The more directories and the more places that your name, address, and phone number is registered, the more that it can recognize that your business is a positive place of business, the more references that it has. But these directories need to be trusted platforms. Okay, so social media platforms are the highest domain authority rated businesses going, right? So this might sound ludicrous, right? But I promise you, I see it all the time. I know loads of companies, estate agents, that don't have a Facebook page. Facebook's domain authority rating is 100 out of 100. It's one of 3 UK websites that has domain authority rating of 100. Google, Apple Maps, Facebook. Make sure that data matches verbatim.
So I was going to say, you kind of beat me to it there. So I presume that when you're doing your name, address, phone number, all that sort of stuff, it needs to be exactly the same formatting with regard to where the commas are and all that sort of stuff. So
not necessarily the commas, but when I was saying about like 29 Acacia Avenue, and then you've got Globe House, 29 Acacia Avenue, make sure that all of that data is consistent. So the first thing you need to do is obviously match your website to your Google profile. Once you've got that matching exactly, now on your Google profile, it doesn't. Google profiles don't actually have your county. There isn't an option for it, right? So it doesn't need it. So you'll now have that appearing. When you start going to register yourself with these, what you've got to remember, right, is that most businesses out there will be registered automatically on quite a few directories just by stuff that people may have done over the years. The way that we help companies leapfrog their competitors is by outperforming them in terms of the directories and the so forth that they can be on. This is what it ultimately comes down to. If you want to improve your Google ranking in the map, which is where the lion's share of engagement now comes from, you've got to outperform your competitors in terms of the data that you're feeding Google.
So does that mean you should be putting your name, address, and phone number on your Facebook page? So all social media platforms should all have your address on there as well.
Yeah, it should do anyway. But with the so set up a big business profile on there, and it'll be on there. Okay. It doesn't matter whether you post on that profile or not, right? Purely, I know, because there's obviously this thing that like on social media platforms that most of the algorithms will prioritize personal posts over company posts, right? That's because that's the algorithm that say Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn uses. Okay. The algorithm on Google is all about the company. Doesn't give two hoots about personal posts. right? So you don't need to worry, but you can just play the game with social media and do all your posts on your personal one. You don't actually have to post on your company profile for it to be picked up by Google. It just has to be there.
And you mentioned about posting on content on straight directly onto Google. How
Mm-hmm.
are we talking, like one a day? Are we talking once a week? What's the sort of regularity to kind of actually make a dent on that side?
You need to make it at least one a week, at least. Ideally, you would probably look at 2 to 3 a week. But what I'm very aware of when I tell people this, it's all well and good preaching, saying this is what all the things you must do. You've got to have the content to be able to do it, right? And sometimes it can be hard to come up with content that is going to be usable, palatable, and picked up on by Google. So just think about how much content you've got and how often that you can consistently spread this over, because that is going to be my next thing, is that this is not a fix where you can go, right, well, we've got to register ourselves with 5 directories. Bear in mind there are probably about 300-400 directories that you could go and register yourself with. So it's really labor intensive. You've done 4 or 5 posts on your Google profile, you've got your reviews up, and then you stop collecting them. That's the worst thing you could have done, because all you've done is you've just wasted all the time and effort that you just put into that is now going to drop off.
And is there with regard to reviews, you mentioned it there, is there a regularity that you should have with regard to posting? Let's say, for example, you don't get a review for 2 weeks or a month. Does Google go, well, you've not had a review for a month, you can't be doing very well, sort of thing? Or is it sort of a level where it needs to be a sort of consistency between the gapping of your reviews?
Sure, it's a good question, Chris. So basically, the factors that Google takes into consideration when it looks at reviews, right, is total count, the number of 4 and 5-star reviews, how many reviews you've collected in the last rolling 12 months, how many negative reviews have you had, i.e. 1 and 2 stars, have you replied to those reviews, and have you replied to those reviews within 18 hours? So those are all the kind of 5 or 6 different things that Google looks at as a complete review entity. The consistency of collecting those reviews, as long as you're collecting at least 1 a month, you're pretty safe with this, right? But do remember that it actually favors the last rolling 12 months. So if you go on this massive splurge to go and go, right, we just had this podcast and we need to go and collect a load more reviews, and you go and collect 25 reviews in the next 4 weeks, remember, in 13 months' time, those 25 reviews are basically going to be redundant. So eke it out, make it consistent, start collecting. For most estate agents, if you're collecting 3 or 4 a month, you're suddenly going to ramp up to like 50 a year. After a few years, you're now in the several hundreds. I think for a lot of people, they look at it and they go, oh, but the corporates, they've just got loads of reviews, or we're never going to compete with that. Yes, you will, but you've just got to make sure that you start now.
Is there a downside to, hypothetically, messaging all your friends and saying, hi guys, I just launched my own business, give me a load of reviews like today, and suddenly, as if by magic, you get like 30, 40 reviews turn up on like day 2 of your business launching? Do Google look at that and go, that's a bit sus, that's a bit convenient, that they've just launched it?
So I've had so many conversations over the years where people say, oh, I've gone and asked for these reviews, they're all 100% legitimate, and I've got the team to stay late, and we got like 40 reviews in a day, and none of them are showing. And it's like, that's because there's this sudden spike of activity that Google goes, this is suspect. Consistency. Don't just go and get 100 reviews in a week and then leave it for a few months. Google will just go, nah. And again, it's no human doing that. That's just their algorithm. And if you try and contact Google, I mean, but if you talk to anyone who's got an issue with Google and they've tried to speak to Google, right, you would think that no one actually works at Google because you can't get hold of anyone.
Yeah, so I don't think the social media platforms and the search platforms are renowned for their customer service with regard to getting hold of someone on the
phone. What we have to remember is that there are tens of millions of Google business profiles, right? Now, if you get a fake 1-star review and you go, fucking hell, like this is just going to ruin my business, I need to get rid of that, right? What you have to remember is that how many millions of businesses are there out there that have probably just had the same thing, right? If Google had someone sat at the end of the phone, they would be out of business within a year because they'd be having to pay people's wages to do this. It's not going to happen, right? So you just have to accept it, move on, and just be like, right, okay, do everything you can, as much white hat techniques, following best practice to avoid any situation whereby Google will turn around and go, no. Don't give them a reason to suspend anything, content, account, etc.
And so Google now own YouTube. So how important is posting content on YouTube that then Google can go, aha, these guys are also posting content online on YouTube. Also, we own YouTube, so therefore that leaves us on our platform a bit longer, therefore kind of recommend that video. So how important is it to have content on your YouTube channel that kind of links in with your business and has certain keywords in it about, estate agent, your town, all that sort of stuff?
It will be relevant, but it will only be as relevant as data that is just on the web. So just by the fact that they own it doesn't mean that they favour that content over and above someone else. For example, do you know the GPS sat nav app called Waze?
Yep.
Google own that.
Okay.
Right. So one of the things that we do is we actually register all of our customers with something that's called the GPS networks. So in these networks, this would be things like Waze, TomTom, NavMe, Uber, for example, because they're great reference points with extremely high domain authority ratings, all of these. Just by the fact that Google owns Waze doesn't mean that our customers are suddenly favored over someone else more so because they're on a platform that's owned by Google. So they don't factor that in. One thing you can do on your Google profile is you can actually link all of your social media accounts to your Google profile. YouTube is actually one of those options that they give you. Again, with that YouTube channel, if it's your company one, that's the one they want to see. If it's Chris Webb on a jolly on a holiday trying to become a vlogger, they're not interested. It has to be the business.
Okay. I mean, that being a on the jolly vlogger sounds very good. Ben, and on that note, a huge thank you, mate, for coming on today. To say we've scratched the surface of your knowledge on the Google side of things would be an understatement of the century. To say you know your stuff is just, beyond belief, mate. So first of all, thank you for so much for sort of dropping the knowledge bombs on today. I'm really happy to say how well your business is going. So Ben won't give himself this shout out, but I will. So we had a chat before we went live today. Ben is absolutely manically busy and pretty much fully booked already, even though he only launched his business a month ago. So I'll give you a shameless shout out. If you want to look up your Google profile, Ben is like the main man to do it. By the sounds of it, you'd be lucky if you can get him. So if you do like the sound of all this, get in touch with Ben and he will kind of have a chat with you from there. Ben, thank you for coming on today, mate. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. So just quick note for anyone who is curious about how they're currently ranking on Google and specifically in Google Maps, if you want to head to our website, which is www.geocale.co.uk, and I'll spell that very quickly, which is geocale.co.uk, you can actually download a free Google report of your business that will just give you a bit of an understanding as to how you're currently ranking locally against your competitors, and actually give you a bit of a snippet in terms of if there's any conflicting data that's currently out there on the web. You're cool if you want to have a chat with us. Of course, we'd love to trying to help you, but it'll just give you some insight in terms of where you currently are.
I am literally going to download that and do that report in about 2 seconds time. So that's amazing. Excellent, Ben. Thank you so much, mate. You've been a brilliant guest. Thanks so much for coming on.
Cheers, Chris.